Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. We're just getting started in a few moments here, probably about 30 seconds. So you can start to get your materials ready. If you haven't done that already, you'll need some paper, scissors, and glue. So just a few things. So welcome to our program tonight. My name is Amber Gagliardi. I'm a librarian at the Middle Country Public Library. We are very excited to offer this to you in our virtual world that we're living in. So welcome. Today we have a very special presenter for you. Her name is Joyce Raimondo. She is the founding director of Imagine That Art Education, and she does a lot of programs at the library for us, and she's a crowd favorite. And she's also the author of What's the Big Idea? Adventures in Abstract Art. So without further ado, Joyce, welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is so exciting for me to do this workshop tonight, and thank you, Amber, for inviting me in the Middle Country Library. And I can see that my cousin Yana is on here and some new friends. So let's get started. Tonight's workshop is about the artist Henri Matisse. And Matisse, we're going to focus tonight on one of his really amazing techniques, which is his cutouts. Okay. Now, I don't know the people who are on here. I don't know if you have a PhD in art, or if you've never made art, or you were just bored, or if you are a painter. I really don't know what your level is. So when I do my workshops, I think that it's an equalizer, because we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to show you Matisse's art. I'm not going to do all the talking. I'll give you some good information and some stories, and I'll talk a little bit about his techniques, but I'm going to ask you what your ideas are about Matisse's art, okay? And what you see in it. And there's no right or wrong answers. Everyone is going to see it differently. And then we're going to have a little demonstration, and we'll all work side by side. And at the end, we'll do some sharing, and Elizabeth from the library will call on people at the end to share what you made, or not even waiting till the end, maybe throughout the class. We'll see, hey, what are you working on? And that kind of thing, okay? And you'll be able to see what I'm working on as well. All right, so Elizabeth, did you want to do a little explaining about how to work Zoom in case some of the people are new? We can't hear you.
If you are interested in chatting with the instructor or any of the panelists or attendees, please make sure in your chat box you choose all panelists and attendees. And then once we're looking for people to show examples, you can raise your hand in the chat or just type in the chat, and we'll allow you to show your work. Okay, right now we can't see you or hear you at all, so don't worry about that. Thanks.
But good news is you could, if you have people at home, you can talk amongst yourselves. So I'll tell you what, everybody, we're going to get started. And if I ask a question, I'm not going to be able to hear you, because this is not a meeting. This is a webinar format. But I'm going to be looking at the chat. So you write me your answer, and then I'll repeat it to people. Okay, so let's get started. I want to show you Matisse's work. Okay, so I'm going to do a little screen share, and bear with me while I get this going, okay? Okay. Okay, so this is the cover of my book, What's the Big Idea? This book is actually written for children. But the technique of asking questions and talking in an open-ended way about art is really good for any age, because we're going to share ideas, and modern art is designed for the viewer. There's not one set answer. And the cover, of course, is a cutout by Matisse. So here's the artist Matisse. I don't know why that type moved up. That used to be on the bottom, but anyway, here's the great artist Matisse. He's French. This was in his later years of his life. He developed this technique called drawing with scissors or drawing with colors, where he's not, first off, there's no pencil outline. There's no planning here. He's got his papers and he's cutting into them almost like you would make a sculpture. When someone makes a sculpture and they're chipping away at a piece of stone, you can't then like glue it back together. You chipped it away, it's gone. Same thing with Matisse. He's cutting with those scissors spontaneously, but very carefully, almost like a sculpture. And then whatever shape he gets, that's what he uses. Next to him is his assistant, Lydia. You could see he's in a wheelchair, so he did need help. He couldn't get up and pin the cutouts to the wall, and he liked to work really large, so Lydia would help him. She was devoted to him, and she helped him pin them up, glue them, and make his masterpieces. Now I'm going to tell you an amazing inspirational story about Matisse. Matisse was a painter. I'll just give you a little background here. At the beginning, how did he get started painting? He was sick. He was a younger adult, and he was in bed, and his mom was taking care of him. He had no interest prior to that in art particularly. And his mom gave him some colors, some crayons and paints to keep him occupied while he was sick and he was recovering. And when he started to paint, he realized his extraordinary love of color and paint. And so it happened, it was what you'd call a negative thing, being sick, but from that negative experience grew an amazing gift, not only for Matisse, but for the entire world, because his art was so new and different and joyful and colorful. It completely changed the way our entire world. You see clothes, you see pocketbooks, you see upholstery, you see design. So many things have been influenced by Matisse as well as other artists themselves. So he was a painter. He decided to study painting. And at the beginning, he painted realistic things like books and still lifes and people. And his colors were very dark because that's what was in style. And then eventually he realized you can have free color. If you want to paint a person's face, you don't have to paint it with a skin color. You could paint it green or blue or pink. Or if you look out the window and you paint a scene, you don't have to paint the trees exactly the color they are. You can use bright reds and pinks and oranges. You can really paint any color that you want. And people didn't understand this, and they said, what is that? That's ugly. That's not even art. And they called his painting, believe it or not, like a wild beast painted that. And the French word for that is fauve. So his type of art was called fauvism, which basically means wild beast. Anyway, he kept painting and painting. And as you could see in this picture, when he got older, he got sick, he was bedridden, and he used a wheelchair. He did not give up. He changed his technique. Instead of painting with oil paints, he started to do cutouts. And in this painting, picture, he's actually drawing with a very long stick. He would draw beautiful, very free gestural drawings with this large stick. He continued, and guess what? Even though he was old, frail, and sick, well, not sick, but partially disabled, he actually made his greatest masterpieces at this time in his life. So to me, that is an inspiration and a lesson. Whatever the adversity is, we adapt, as we can see right here. We adapt. We eventually, in my life, I come to accept something, and then I move on. I adjust to the situation. Well, what can I do in that situation? So he's just a great example. So I would like to show you, this is a very simple cutout by Matisse. It's a simple shape, but I'd like to show you a video of Matisse making his cutout, because he was alive when there was film. And so we're lucky enough to have footage of him. So check this out. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I did. It gave me almost the chills. It's so beautiful. Now, you may have noticed what he was doing looked kind of childlike, right? It looked sort of like what children do. He had his papers, his scissors, and his glue. So yesterday, the day before, I gave a video chat at Jackson Pollock's house, which is down the street from where I live. And I did a demonstration of drip painting. It was for adults. And afterward, this really nice man, he said, I really like the whole tour except that childish part. That's not for adults. And I said, you know what? Some of the simplest techniques, they seem childlike, but they are for adults. And these modern masters are an example of that. And also what Matisse is doing, it's a technique like a child with scissors and glue and paper. But the way he's doing it is extraordinary. A simple shape can be so beautiful. And that is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So here's one shape on a paper. And I'm just curious, what kind of feeling or what does this remind you of? Does anybody want to type anything into the chat? And you know what, right now, because I am looking at the screen share, I can't actually see the chat. Can Elizabeth see the chat? Okay, did we get any responses? Oh, no, I can't really navigate this. So Elizabeth, if we get responses, can you just chime in and tell me? And if we don't, I'll sort of share with you some of the things that I see. Sometimes in modern art, it's the idea of paring things down, images to their essentials, eliminating detail, eliminating a literal expression of something in favor of something that's abstract. So when we say abstract, there's a lot of different kinds of abstraction. There's pure abstraction, which is purely a shape or color or line. And then there's other abstraction that might remind you of something else that you can actually see. To me, when I look at this one, I see a lot of things. I see joy and I see exuberance and I see almost a springing forth like this upward movement. And then it kind of reminds me also of an organic form, maybe like a leaf or a flower or a plant, something growing. But to me, it has like a very strong emotional, almost like a burst of joy from someone's heart, from my heart.
Joyce?
Yes.
You have, I apologize, I was trapped in full screen for a second and was muted, but we did get some responses.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tell me the
No,
response.
that's okay. I'm just in. Lisa says it looks like a flower. Regina says it looks like a ginkgo leaf. Ani says it looks like flowers or a splash. Regina also thinks it looks like a leaf. I personally think it looks like some underwater, like seaweed.
Yeah, very good. What I want you to notice about this one, just from a technical point of view. Now, I believe Lisa's on here. She's a professional artist, amazing artist. Lisa, you have to share your art at the end. And some of you might be beginners. So for the more experienced people, forgive me if this is just sort of like, well, we already know that. Positive and negative space. The positive space would be the floral, the cutout, the purple cutout itself. Okay, that's sort of the object that's coming in the foreground somewhat. The negative space is the space around the object. But with Matisse and any great painter, the negative space, the space around an object, is just as important in a picture. There's no blank space. There's no unimportant space. It's one unified whole. Now, if you look at it, it's almost like one of those those tricks of the eye. If you focus on the orange, you'll notice every shape around the purple shape is an interesting shape in and of itself. They're varied, some are pointy, some are thin. So it's dynamic. Let's see some other ones. These are all simple ones. Now, this one is a good example of Matisse's use of color. This was very unusual, especially in his day. In France, a typical color combination when you think of France is you think of like that nice blue with a golden. It's very soothing to the eye, like Van Gogh's Starry Night. This is really unusual. Matisse is using complementary colors. So what's a complementary colors are opposite colors on the color wheel that next to each other vibrate and make each one look even brighter. So you could see in this case, the green and the red, they're like Christmas colors, are combined in the picture, but then it doesn't look so jarring because he has that white around it. Now I'm curious with this one, the other picture looked kind of joyful. What kind of emotional quality do you think this one has? And there's no right or wrong answers or anything else it reminds you of. Simply, what do you see?
Nobody's typing anything, Joyce, but I can tell you that it looks pretty chaotic to me.
And what makes you say that?
Maybe I'm not used to that combination of colors. Regina actually popped on and she said it looks like a cactus. Lisa has responded that it's energy.
Mm-hmm.
Ona says it's unusual.
Mm-hmm. And there's no right answer. Modern art is really about the viewer, and there's such a complexity. This piece, it's almost like you could be looking down at it, like it's an aerial view and those green shapes are popping out. Or you could see it almost like some kind of creature or movement, like it's whirling around. And perhaps, like you said, the chaotic part is the red and the blue. And the shapes themselves, you'll notice with Matisse's shapes, they're curvy. But what's really beautiful about the curves is there are hard edges within the curve. So it sort of goes like, it's a choppy, somewhat choppy curve. Do you see what I mean? And that actually adds to its beauty, in my opinion. I like cutting shapes like that. This one is beautiful. Again, complementary colors, but then he's got the dark in there that gives it some weight. So what would you say the emotional quality of this one is? Or maybe it doesn't have, maybe it just reminds you of something else. Anybody?
Regina says it looks like sadness to her.
And Regina, what makes you say that? Can you type it in?
And Lisa says it feels very sensual to her.
Interesting. Sometimes these shapes, they're sort of going, there's like a downward movement, right? And that could show sadness. But sometimes the slowing down movement and the reds, that could also show sensuality, right? So it really depends on how you look at it.
Regina said she can't really explain it, but she sees a sad face.
Well, it does look, well, because those two purple shapes, it starts to look like a face too. And then that red shape below the two purple squares starts to look a little like a mouth. Often human beings see faces and things, probably because we're human, right? Whether or not Matisse intended that, we don't know. So when you make your artwork today, think about when you're using the shapes. If you do something purely abstract, the shapes, the colors, the arrangement is going to give an emotional quality. This is a great example. Different kinds of shapes, different emotional qualities here. So example, the one on the top, what do you make of that one? As opposed to maybe the ones on the bottom. Any ideas? What word would you use to describe the top shape?
Ona says wartime, which is interesting because I was going to say thorns or crown of thorns almost. Regina says it looks very energetic.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you have those pointy shapes, it could be energetic and it could also look a little more edgy, almost like a sharp voice or a sharp noise. It could look a little more aggressive. And
Lisa says it's polarity.
In what sense, Lisa? Can you explain that a little bit? Because I think I see what you're saying, but can you explain a little bit?
She's thinking about it.
Thinking. Good. It's good to pause. Studies show the average amount of time someone looks at an artwork in a museum is 4 seconds. So it's okay to stop and just look and reflect. Because the more you look, the more you see. Like in this one, for example, we were discussing complementary colors. Blue and orange, those are complements. Those are opposite colors.
Lisa says she feels that there's a push and a pull going on.
And Lisa's a painter, so that's a common phrase that painters use, meaning when it could be emotionally or it could be visually in an artwork, when things go back and forth in space and it gives you a tension, and it's called push-pull. And that's a good thing. You want a little tension in a painting, otherwise it could just be like blah. Just like when you do partner dancing, you want a little tension, even in a relationship. You don't want it to just be like blah, right? Okay, good. So this is a great example, the use of shapes, the use of color, complementary colors. And you can see now he's sometimes layering these shapes as well. And some of these we'll go through a little more quickly. This one this is one piece, but on the left, you'll see how Matisse used the leftover scrap paper, like the green in the center. That's a leftover scrap. That's not throwaway. That can be used in your collage. And you could see the way the white on top of the black, that white paper was from another shape that he used someplace else and so on. Okay. So all of these scraps, you can it's almost like a puzzle where it becomes hard to tell what's the foreground, what's the background. So like when you look at the image on the left here, the black shape, which is the negative space typically, is not really negative space, because don't they start to almost look like people's heads? Or do you see what I'm saying? But I'm curious, what does somebody else see in any of these images now? Any ideas? I don't know. For me, I start to see different profiles. I start to see leaf forms, but then these leaf forms look a little like little creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ona is saying that she sees bodies.
Me too.
Yeah.
And this is another example that green with the pink, they're somewhat complementary colors. You'll notice also with Matisse, sometimes he has these organic shapes, these free-flowing shapes that are sort of floating, but often he puts them in a more geometric frame. So the shapes are contained. And Pollock did that as well. He did his free drip painting, and a lot of the abstract painters, they're very free, but then they have some kind of containment in the painting, which kind of contains the energy. And it also kind of, what's the word for it? It kind of, I guess, formalizes the shapes a little, so they're not just floating in nothingness. That famous painting, The Scream by Edward Munch, you'll notice he does that too. He has one line along the edge of all that confusion. This one is beautiful. What do you make of this one? Any ideas, thoughts? What does this one remind you of?
The seasons. Regina's saying the seasons.
In what sense, Regina?
And Ona says nature.
Mm-hmm. Now, like Jackson,
And marine life.
Marine life, good. Well, Matisse, he moved to Paris, and then after that, he lived in Nice on the seaside of France. And of course, it's extraordinarily beautiful. And he was inspired by nature. But like a lot of the modern artists, he wasn't copying nature, but he was gathering inspiration from it. And modern artists like Matisse, they're capturing sometimes things you can't see. So that spiral shape, it could literally be something from nature, or it could evoke the wind or a sound or a breeze. Those yellow shapes, maybe that's a different kind of sound or a different kind of feeling. So it's left open-ended. And this one is an example where the shapes are less contained. This one kind of reminds me, I gotta be honest with you. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little subjective here. But it kind of reminds me of the way I feel a little bit right now sometimes. Because on the one hand, I feel sometimes personally, I feel sometimes happy in my own personal day-to-day life, but I feel darkness because of what I'm aware of what's going on in other people's lives. So those black shapes remind me of like darkness coming into like joy or leaving. It can be, or just sort of out there somewhere. But I'm curious, any other thoughts on this one? This one's a good example of Matisse's use of pattern. And of course,
Lisa says it looks like darkness leaving to her.
I like that, Lisa. Optimism. To me, it looks like that way too, like the darkness is kind of floating or getting pushed out because it's around the edges. And it's the darkness is kind of being overwhelmed by the color. Oh, and Elizabeth has, this is absolutely beautiful. And it can be taken as a metaphor in so many ways of, I'm just thinking about all the wonderful people and all the goodness and all the good things that people do, but then we hear of the horrible things and that can really get us down. But I am a believer that people are basically good and there's a minority of people. I mean, I don't mean 100%, I mean, but basically I think most people want to do good things. But there's a little darkness too. I'm sorry, I've been alone all day. So,
Ona says it looks like new life.
oh,
And,
good, I love it, new life. So let's all keep that in mind.
And Regina and Lisa are agreeing with you, nice, yes.
Okay. So anyway, this shows the scale of Matisse's. I have the MoMA thing on the bottom. This was not from MoMA. This is from the Tate Museum. But there's a really good video that you can watch that I was going to tag. Maybe we'll watch it later, where it shows this and other works coming to MoMA during the Matisse exhibit, the Museum of Modern Art. So this shows, look, this is incredible to scale, and this is when he was an older man working from bed. And this is a detail. Now you'll see that blue shape up there kind of suggests some type of figure. So we'll get to that later. This is an example. Matisse and many of these other artists, they worked in different mediums. So this was actually designed to be a ceramic and a ceramic panel. So this is a really good example of his use of patterns. But what's beautiful about it is when he makes the pattern, they're not exact patterns. They're not machine made. Every shape is slightly different. Every panel is slightly different. And yet at the same time, it has, in this case, this geometric pattern. This one is actually at the Matisse Museum in Nice in France. This one, I believe, this may also be a tapestry. I'm not sure. What do you see in this one? There's so much going on. It looks simple. The more you look, the more you see. That's why
marine life, Ona says marine life, Regina says all types of life forms. To me, the blue feels like peace, and that big piece in the middle looks like a dove.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa says underwater.
Yeah, what I love about this one, it looks kind of simple when you first look at it, but it's so complex, the space in it. It's playing with space. It's like, you look like you're looking down at water or into water. And then at the same time, there's these birds. So it's like birds, you usually are looking up at birds. So it's like, where are you? Are you under the water? Or are then you shifting and looking up? And then those plants on the top, they almost look a little bit like they're upside down. And then you have those plants along the bottom that look like they're growing up. So that wouldn't be an aerial view anymore. Now you're looking on a side view. So modern artists, again, this is playing with space, and it's really complex. It's almost as if you're moving throughout the world and getting simultaneous views in one picture. Does that make sense? The Cubists were known for this, like Picasso, showing more than one view in a picture. These are examples of his figures. This is incredible, the colors, but I can't dwell on each one. I'm sorry, I don't even know how long we're taking. This one is jazz. How are we doing on time? My clock, I can't see it.
It's 7:08.
Ah, oh my gosh, we got to get started. Okay, jazz series. I'm sorry. Jazz series. This is a printed book inspired by the circus, inspired by travels. Okay. These are all from the book. The Blue Nudes, very famous. The Swimmers, an installation, which was then moved to the Museum of Modern Art. Very famous chapel he designed, the last project. He said this was the most important thing he ever did in his career. Ironically, he was an atheist. He designed this chapel and everything in it with stained glass windows, fabric, and it was all simplification. This is so radical for a Dominican church. It's unbelievable. And you can go visit this in France. It's remarkable. Okay, so sorry it took so long. I just threw this in here. This is beautiful. This reminds me of resurrection. So that's what our mood is right now. Okay, let's get started with the project. We'll stop the share. How do I, my arrow, oh wait. My arrow is not allowing me to stop the share. Can you stop the share, Elizabeth?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize I was talking so long. Okay. So the good news is you're home, so you can take as long as you want with the project. So you're going to choose a paper for your base. And then don't think of the paper as the background. Think of it as it's all equally important. I'm going to make this up as I go along. I am going to do my picture about my experience right now. So I am going to take my paper and I'm going to attempt to make a figure. Now, when you do these cutouts, don't glue them right away, because you might change your mind and then you're stuck. So, you know, modern art, it's very fluid. So you don't want to glue everything down. Don't be in a rush. So that's going to be someone's leg. I'm going to attempt to make someone meditating. This is drawing with scissors, no outlining. When I work with children, sometimes teachers, well-meaningly, they're like, oh, you know, don't you want to give the kid a scissor? No, just be bold. Well, that worked out. Those are going to be the legs of my person meditating. Now, sometimes when Matisse did his figures, often they were women. And it is funny, I notice a lot of times they had very small heads. And I wonder if it was symbolic, like that's the way, you know, it was a very sensual picture and the head was small. So here's my meditating figure. Now I'm going to put some different things around the figure to sort of be somewhat symbolic. So I'm putting the black here. I'm literally making this up as I go along, but I'm thinking of the idea of containment, right? And notice design-wise how it goes right up to the edge there. So I like that. So this is containment. And then within that, I don't feel emotionally contained, because spiritually, I feel very free. So now here's another shape. I got this negative shape. So maybe I'll use this. And sort of put that floating around her. I'm going to keep working. I want you to start working. Negative shapes, positive shapes, containment, color, and also the use of pattern. So let's say, for example, I have this red paper. I cheated a little bit. Okay, so that's the beginning of a pattern. Okay. I'm doing this upside down, so I'm at a disadvantage here. Is this starting to make sense? Questions, ideas? Anybody? Otherwise, you could work, and we're all working side by side, so we all have company.
Yes, I think everybody must be working because there's no comments.
Awesome.
Lisa's asking why we can't see each other. Lisa, because we're in a webinar, you cannot see everybody else. Once we're set, people can raise their hands and we can share our artwork.
Can I ask you something, Elizabeth? Do you want to now let Lisa be seen? So we could see what she's working on?
Yeah, if she'd like to, I'll wait for her to respond. She said, wait a minute. Let us know, Lisa.
Also, Lisa, this will be on YouTube. Wait, what will it be on, Elizabeth? Could you tell everybody so they know in advance? It'll be public.
YouTube.
Yeah, so you will be seen on YouTube. So that's why we also have it completely anonymous, unless you want to be seen and you'll realize it will be on the web.
Regina said, no way I'm showing this.
Oh, come on, Regina. Look, I'm showing mine and I'm just making it up as I go along. This is a friendly group.
And Lisa said it's a different kind of Zoom. It's a webinar, Lisa, instead of a Zoom meeting. And Regina said, sorry, not happening, LOL.
Well, we respect that, Regina.
Of course we do. As long as you're having fun. Are you having fun, Regina, and learning a lot? That's what's important. Lisa said, okay, that means you're ready for me to make your video live. And Regina said, yes, she's having a good time.
Awesome.
And we'll all get to see Regina in next week to a program for us. So
Oh,
she'll have to show her face next Saturday.
okay. All right, Lisa, are you ready? Let me
I'm
see.
not sure. She said okay, but she didn't say okay to what. So again, I don't want to do anything until I know for sure. Thank you. Yes, this is radio silence, Amber. This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun, right? None of us are going to want to go back to work. I'm just kidding. Don't take that the wrong way. I didn't mean to make light of the situation. What I meant is just doing the art. When I meant this, I didn't mean the quarantine. I meant doing the, once you get used to doing this art, this is why artists give up everything. Because it's so rewarding and you feel so close to your spirit. And you forget all the mundane day-to-day things that people think about.
So this is very different for me. I'm always using the Cricut machine to cut perfect little shapes. So mentally, this is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with straight lines. I always cut everything straight. So this is good. This is good.
It's good actually as a creative person or just in general. It's good to do things that you're really uncomfortable with.
Yeah, like this is very, I feel myself making my person straighter and straighter, even though, you know, it's
Yeah. You're getting out of your comfort zone.
yeah. And I'm like, things can't overlap. And So
No,
I
no,
don't know.
I really, it's actually a really good exercise of the mind. And it's also a good exercise emotionally and spiritually
Right.
to do things in a completely different way that it doesn't feel comfortable. For me, that would be doing a straight line, actually.
Yeah. I want to get my Cricut person or my Cricut machine out and start making a real person. So
Well, forget it, Amber. Forget it.
You are making a real person. It's not perfect.
uh-huh.
Does this automatically get cut off at 7:30?
No, it shouldn't.
Did anyone want to share?
Nobody has volunteered.
Well, you know what that means, Amber. It means you're going to share. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, absolutely. I will share. I'm happy to share.
You can wait, though.
I'll share. I don't mind.
Let's see, Elizabeth.
Okay. Hold on, I have to make my video so everybody can see it.
And Yana, which is Ono19, wants to share.
Oh, so let's have Anna share first.
Okay, that's my cousin's daughter, so she's my cousin, very special.
Okay, so Anna, I'm going to promote you to panelist so you can show your video, okay?
Yeah, okay, so she's blacked out still.
She'll be pop. It takes a moment.
Okay.
She is.
Oh, wait, hold it still, Yana. It's a little dark and the camera's all topsy-turvy. Wait, do you have a light on in the room? What's going on, Yana? You're moving around so much. We can't see it. Stand still. Yana, why are you moving? Stop. Okay, good. Now, back up a little bit. Okay, good. Oh my gosh, is that a guitar? Keep going back. Back a little.
I have to take you out of spotlight video, Joyce.
Yeah,
So
good.
we're all on right now.
Oh, hi, Elizabeth.
Yana, this is incredible. Now I see it looks like almost a guitar, and I can't tell if that blue shape is someone playing the guitar. And then it reminds me all those white shapes almost look like musical notes or sounds coming out of the guitar. Do you want to say anything, Yana? I'm not sure, you might be muted. Yeah, she's muted. Can you put her on, Elizabeth?
She muted herself.
So I'm telling you, yes, it's a person, guitar and musical notes.
You know what? I love it because actually, Matisse, the jazz, he wanted to convey sound also. That's beautiful. Yana, thank you. I love the color choice, that turquoise with the pinks. It's really good. Good job. And a good job for sharing.
Yes.
For the first one, you see, you're doing great. She came to all of my workshops today.
Thanks, Anna. I'm going to send you back to be a participant.
So would anyone else like to share? Gotta a moment or so.
We have a lot of people, right? Oh, no, we have 5 people. What about Jim? Who's Jim?
We haven't heard from Jim.
How about Lisa?
Lisa has not said she will share yet.
Mary?
I'll share if you want.
Oh, yeah, Elizabeth, go ahead. And Elizabeth said one of her favorite artists is Matisse, so go ahead,
Okay, I'm
Elizabeth.
going to spotlight my video so you can see it.
Actually, Lisa, that's absolutely beautiful. Hold it up a little higher. Tell us about that one.
Well, this is me or a person, and I feel very constricted by my chair, so my legs are kind of smushed. And these are my arms reaching out my window. And it's safe inside, but chaotic outside.
That's really good, Lisa. It's the colors, and really it's absolutely beautiful. It has a feeling of Matisse, and the way it does look sort of very comforting inside.
I
But
don't know why the colors.
protected, you're protected.
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay, I'm getting off screen now.
Very good. That's beautiful. Elizabeth, I love it. How about Amber over there?
All right.
Okay, let me spotlight you.
Okay.
Oh,
Here
I
I
love
am.
the color.
This is actually really fun. Amber's studio is so, oh, Amber, stop. That's so good. Tell us about that one.
So I'm dancing.
You know what, Amber, that has such a bold, childlike quality in a really good way. It's like just, actually, it looks really happy, and it looks just like very confident. And at the same time, I'll tell you what's interesting about it. Those 2 yellow shapes coming in from the side,
Mm-hmm.
it almost does look like it's kind of confining the figure a little bit. Like
Yeah.
they're sort of holding the figure in place.
I'm breaking through the wood.
You are breaking out of the mold. You go, girl, you break out. Really, it's good. I like it. It's like that child breaking out.
I'm like,
Where's your hula hoop?
Actually, it's really good. It's simple.
yeah, I went for simple. I wanted to do, I wanted to do like a moon, like dancing in the moonlight. But then, I think then I was like, let me do something more abstract than I would normally do. So I got inspired by all.
Yeah, well, I think that you accomplished that, actually. Yeah, you pared it down. You stuck it to, oh, Lisa wants to show something.
Okay.
Oh, great. Okay, Lisa, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Hold on one sec.
And Lisa's an amazing artist.
Okay, we're ready.
The art barge.
Okay, give her a second.
Unmute. Hello.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa, you're our spotlight video right now.
Maybe I should turn the light on. But okay, so this is the first one I did. Do I do that? It's a switch.
Wow.
Which way does it go? Horizontal or?
I think this way. Whoa. All the pieces are not like glued on yet.
Now that's beautiful, Lisa. Tell us about that one.
Well, it's swimmers. Even though I have not really been swimming that much lately because of what's going on, but I do, I swim usually every day. So I've been doing a series on swimmers, and here's another one that's also kind of about swimming and dancing.
I like the way you use the cut shapes from the figures. You use that in your collage as well.
I did do that with this one here, the yellow one.
Yeah. And then
Um,
it almost looks like there's a figure within those two yellow shapes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very cool.
Well, it's fun to do this, yeah.
No, and then, yeah, no, it's really that one. It looks simple, but then when you look at it, it's actually not that simple because you have that yellow figure, but then you kind of have a pink figure within the
Whoops.
yellow,
Let me turn this off. Wait.
within
Um,
that yellow scrap, so to speak.
yes, I
Hard to
used
see a
this
pink
after
figure
I
in
cut that.
there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
I've
then
been
the
doing,
other one, that blue shape, it looks like it could be two people, it could be one person.
right, right. Well, I was thinking also of the Tantra experience because I've been that's been going through my head as far as teaching something about massage for couples and exchange of energy, even though like now a lot of people don't have anyone to touch. That will end eventually, and hopefully we will be able to touch each other. And I have a passion for touch, you know, because I have been a massage therapist, so I would
Well,
like to sort of
yeah,
part of what I do.
that's really amazing how you communicated that with the two figures. It looks like they're becoming,
Wow, I didn't really see that right off the
yes, it
bat.
looks
You
like
know?
two figures becoming one, like their energy is intertwined. And it looks like one of them is sort of reaching up and stretching. It's really cool.
Okay, maybe I'll do more like that, more with that in mind. The couple.
And are you in California, Lisa?
I am. I'm in Santa Barbara. I'm supposed to come to the Hamptons. I was supposed to be coming this month, but with everything going on, I put it off another month.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's good, Lisa. Yeah, stay put. Stay put.
But for at least another month. But I still am aiming on being there soon.
Good. I'm really glad you came. Lisa and I painted together for years at a wonderful place called the Art Barge in Nepean between Montauk and East Hampton, a spectacular school. When this is over, check out the Art Barge over the summer. It's amazing.
I hope they open up this summer. I'm sure they will, right, Joyce?
I think so.
Hope so.
I think so.
Thank you,
Because
Lisa.
there's not many people there. There's plenty of space. So
Okay.
anybody else? Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
And Regina said she doesn't want to share. And
Yeah.
Mary or Regina, last but not least.
I sent into the chat anyone else, but I don't think anybody else is ready to share.
Okay, well, it is time to close, so I'll share mine quickly. And I'm not exactly done, but this is kind of interesting. Sometimes art, you start off with one thing and then it looks like something else. So it's like meditation, yoga, but it's not like complete peace. The shoulder is a little tense. And then these leaves, they started out being cheery leaves. They're sort of pinning her down a little bit. So it's like the love is coming out, but she's sort of held back. So it's got this duality going on in it. So art is interesting. We learn a lot about ourselves and our feelings. It sort of speaks back to us. That's been my experience. It's unpredictable. It's a language. So before we close, I want to thank first the Middle Country Library as an institution for providing this program. And I want to thank Amber. I'm not going to pronounce your last name, Amber. I'm saying Gagliardi.
You did it. Gagliardi.
No, really, Amber and I have been working together for years, and Amber always is very enthusiastic about art for the patrons at the library, and it was a good way to get to know you, Amber. And
Yes,
Elizabeth for figuring out the technology and hosting the program as well, and all the participants. And I want to let everyone know, anyone who's watching this at home or who's here right now, how much I appreciate people who support the arts. because art is expression, art is joy, art is love, art is spirituality, art is life. And so every step we take, whether it's to show our art, to be open to making it, to going to a museum, and all these things, providing programs, this is all supporting positive human interaction. So it's just so much fun for me, and thank you.